Hi guys, I know I'm not supposed to say that on YouTube channel. My son's gonna hear it and he's gonna be upset with me for doing it. But anyway, I couldn't think of anything else to say. It's been a while since I put out any videos, mainly because I've been super busy with my real estate business, which in this market, you need to stay busy. So I thought I would put together an interview with my dad that took place in Garden Valley, Idaho over the 4th of July weekend. 2 hours long. I've broken it up into multiple parts. So for those of you who don't know, Dad was Ted Smith's third hire at Ted Smith Aircraft and was instrumental in the design of the aircraft, has many patents that are involved in the systems, and is well known for some of the overall aesthetics of the airplane, among other things. So this is kind of a story of the early days of Ted Smith Aircraft, starting back in about 1963, I think, when Dad first met him, and went to work for him in December of 1964. That's when he got hired. And then in February, maybe it was January of 65 is when he actually sat down at his desk, which was really a drafting board. So that's been quite a while. Dad turns 94 this year and still going strong. The story is pretty interesting. A lot of it has to do with his relationship with Ted Smith, which was a really good one. Unusual one from a relationship standpoint, since it seemed more like a father-son relationship to him, and I think to both of them. But I think you'll enjoy this. There's quite a bit of history in here. And I do mention a book. It's called Stars and Commanders. It's been written by Dave Duntz. This is probably the best historical reference to Ted Smith and his designs and his life and the origins of the Aerostar and that whole process. Highly recommend you get it. I will tell you this is not a paid advertisement, but if you go out to Stars and Commanders, one word, starsandcommanders.com, you can get the book. It's an amazing book. I think weighs about 6 pounds. I think there's over 700 illustrations and photographs. Dave spent 20 years writing this book, so highly recommend it. Go out and get it, starsandcommanders.com. So here we go on the first one. This one's about 20 minutes long, I think, and we'll do another one as soon as I get it cut, but it won't be as long as the gap between this one and the previous one. So fly safe. I'm Dick Reese. I sell real estate for a living, but I fly and instruct in the Aerostar for fun. Join us on our travel and training adventures in the world's fastest light piston twin. Beautiful Garden Valley outside of Boise. We flew the Aerostar over here. November, whole lot of ones. And I'm here with my dad, Dick Reese, and thought we'd discuss a little bit more about his time at Aerostar in the early days, what it was like, and how basically TR gave you carte blanche to do what you wanted to do, but you did some things that kind of built his trust. So let's start off with kind of the whole start, you know, back in, well, you were hired in what, December of 64, and then went to work in February?
Yeah, as my hat shows, the 53 Able A means my pilot class in Air Force. I got my wings in January 1953, and we were the first class, meaning the Able, in that year to receive wings. And each year went through HOW, so there was Able, starting with Able all through H or HOW.
To those of us who aren't 93, that's Alpha Bravo Charlie.
Oh,
it changed a little
Able
bit.
Baker Charlie.
Yeah.
It started out Able Baker Charlie for the Nordic alphabet, and then changed to Alpha Bravo Coco. And that all came about when I was going through cadets, because we were training a lot of the foreign pilots in our country. Specifically the French and the Belgians and so on. But the French couldn't grasp Able Baker Charlie. So they changed it right in the middle from Able Baker Charlie and so on to Alpha Bravo Coco. So we ended up as very interchangeable. So Roger used to be Romeo, or rather, yeah.
It's Romeo now.
Romeo used to be Roger, as an example, and it's still, Roger is still used. Roger meaning, okay, yes. So after I got out of the Air Force, I went to work as an engineer in the engineering business, went to work specifically with Ryan Aeronautical, and I was project engineer on their KDA drone, jet-propelled drone, recoverable targets. And I got involved with Aerojet General and in the space business, and got involved with General Bernard Schriever, who ended up, he's really the one that our country got into space. He's the whole emphasis behind him. That's the reason the Space Center, or whatever it's called at Colorado Springs, is named after him. While there, Aerojet joined with a company in Burbank, Space General, because they wanted to get into the space upper vehicle business rather than just building engines. Space General, combining this space electronics with Aerojet General, the Advanced Concepts Department. Anyway, there I was project engineer in various programs. I started up the oceanography program at Space General because I could see a lot of merit in the oceanography business. I was all the time taking Aviation Week and read this article in Aviation Week about this Ted Smith guy whom I'd never heard of before. I'd heard of the Aero Commander, but I didn't realize who Ted Smith was. And I wanted to get into the business of designing airplanes. I've been in design model airplanes from 2 years old on, so I was really into airplanes. I loved airplanes, but I'd never designed full-size airplanes. I'd have flown them. And my engineering background was mechanical engineering with an aeronautical option. So I called Aviation Week and found the guy that wrote the article and asked where I could find this Ted Smith guy. And he said, well, the last contact I had is when I interviewed him. He was out at the Santa Monica Airport in one of the hangars, a little tiny office in one of the hangars, which is about 45 minutes away from where we were at Space General.
So when was this?
This was probably 1963.
Okay.
Probably about 1963. So I would drive at lunchtime and out to Santa Monica and try to find this hangar, and I finally found him. He didn't happen to be there that particular day, and George Thorpe was there on that particular day, and I got talking to him, and then I came back the following week, or I've kind of forgotten now, but and found Ted Smith, talked to him, and the article talked about he was going to start up this new company and build what he called the Aerostar airplane. And that really interested me a lot. I wanted to get involved with the startup company and design general aviation aircraft.
Hang on just a second.
What?
We were sitting in the sun, so that we had to sit in the shade because all the cameras decided to overheat and turn off. So
Okay.
I had to back up a little bit.
So consequently I took my hat off because I hate to wear hats. But I'm supposed to wear them in the sun. So after that first visit, me and George Thorpe, and he was just in this little tiny room in one of the big hangars at Santa Monica, that probably 10 by 10 room, and that was about it. So then I continued to go back, and the first time back after that first visit, I met Ted Smith and talked to him. He told me afterwards, and I went back 3 or 4 times after that, but he told me afterwards, because in those days the engineers all wore ties and everything to work, including when you're working at afterboard, you still had your tie on. That was just the modus operandi in those days. Like in my dad's day, hats were all, everyone wore hats. If you look at the old movies, everyone wore hats. Well, that went away. Well, the ties are also going away now.
Well, I don't even know if I own a tie anymore.
Anyway, so he told me afterwards, he thought initially I was some highfalutin brokerage guy or stock market guy trying to get the in a startup company, so if they went public, I could be involved in the public offering of his company. So I went back the first time and after meeting George Thorpe and met Ted Smith, and I could feel then that there was something between the two of us. As you all know, you meet someone every once in a while for the first time, and it clicks. You feel that connection.
So
Well,
how many times did you met him, actually see
Well,
him?
this is the first time.
This is the first time. But
Yeah.
he already sensed something just talking
Well,
to
I
you.
think we both did. We talked for quite a while, and he wasn't really. Well, he asked my background, this kind of thing, and he didn't go in a lot of detail. About what I designed. He knew I'd been in the aerospace business and was in the advanced concept and the space business and built model airplanes. Went a little. I probably came out during the conversation, but anyway. So then I would go back and talk more, and all the time, a chance I had to do this during lunchtime. So it was a 45-minute drive. So of course I was imposing on Space General's time, because obviously it went more than 45 minutes for lunchtime. So I probably went back 3 or 4 different times talking to him. And I told him, I think very early on, that I was so interested in getting involved in a startup company designing general aviation aircraft. I wanted to do that, not big airplanes. I wanted to get in a startup where I had a hands-on part of the design, conceptual design of the thing we were going to build. So I told him, I've got a family. I think I was about 33 at the time, age-wise. I told him I had a family and three kids, and I had to support them. But if I didn't have that family, I would go to work for nothing just to get the opportunity to work for. And I meant that very sincerely, and I still do today. So anyway, we talked more and more, and each time as he got to know me better, and me too, but there was a very personal connection that's hard to explain, and you've all been through this kind of thing before. It's kind of like when you meet your wife for the first time before you're married. If it's the right person, there's a connection that you can't figure out, but it's there. And I had learned during that time that he had a son, Ron Smith, that was back in Oklahoma working for Aero Commander, and was an engineer, but he was a structural guy. And I often thought, in fact, I think I probably asked, why isn't Ron here? And I never did get a definitive answer at the time from him for that. So I thought that was kind of strange. I didn't say this to TR, but I'll back up. I call him TR. He introduced himself depending upon the person he was introducing it to. I think whether he felt he had a connection to that person, didn't a connection. The person that he felt he had a connection, he would ask that person call him TR. The other people he would ask to call him Ted. So TR was kind of I never called him Ted, I always called him TR. So anyway, about mid-December of '64, he called and said, Dick, I'm going to start the company up and we'd love to have you come on board. The building will be finished, refurbished, and finished to move into first part of January of '65. But anyway, I was working on this project, Space General, that I was project manager, but I couldn't just quit right in the middle, so I had to get this turned over. And I talked to Space General that I was going to do this. And my boss, who was also an engineer, a very sharp guy, he said, boy, Dick, I wish I could do what you're going to be able to do. So I left and started with Ted Smith I think it was 2nd of February of '65, a week or so after people had actually started there. So when I got there, George Thorpe was there, who was with him with the original Aero Commander back in Oklahoma, and Don Jones, also involved, original Aero Commander Oklahoma, and Al Davis, who was also with him, original Aero Commander. So the 3 of those guys are there, and then myself. They'd been there maybe 2 weeks or something.
Right.
So I moved in. So I went to my drafting board in the drafting room, which was not that big. And about a week later, or 2 weeks later, Ted Smith went to Hawaii with his wife for vacation. So here I'm all by myself with these other 2 guys. And I was looking at the conceptual design of the Aerostar, and I just didn't like the looks of it. Because if any of you ever seen the original Aero Commander, it was a blunt-nosed, not a very attractive looking airplane. It was conceptual, and it was the first general aviation aircraft designed specifically for general aviation use, twin-engine general aviation, ever designed. So everything else used by corporate people was all ex-military type aircraft converted. So Ted Smith was the forerunner of twin-engine general aviation aircraft. He's the one that started it. And somehow or another, I think, and I don't know these facts, that I used to know, but I just have forgotten. But Rockwell's Standard, I think, probably was the original money behind Ted Smith in Culver City, where he started the Aero Commander. Actually, Aero Commander started when he was working for Douglas. Ironically, when we moved after Ted Smith started, our next door neighbor was a guy by the name of Chuck Sawhill, and he was Ted Smith's, I want to say co-engineer, but
a colleague at work.
Well,
yeah.
Not a colleague. The two of them were the project engineers for the A-20 attack bomber.
Yeah.
It had already been designed, but at Douglas they took over the project office for the A-20. So they were very close, both sharp guys. And while at Douglas, they designed the Aero Commander, the two of them. Ted Smith, like many people in the business, and specifically the one I can think of is Bill Lear, he wouldn't give credit to the people that really were responsible for his success. And that's typical of the entrepreneur. He wants his name attached to it.
Yeah.
So
this is the Commander, the original Commander, which, do you remember? Well, it's in the book too. It's in the Stars and Commanders book by Dave Duntz. And so that was actually before Cessna came out with the 310.
Oh gosh, yes.
Because that was, see, that 310 was like 54.
Oh, Aero Commander was the very first airplane. He promoted it. TR was a tremendous promoter.
Mm-hmm.
He was a good designer, but he was a tremendous promoter. And I'll tell you later on, that was kind of his downfall. He over-promoted what he was doing. Anyway, I didn't like the looks of the airplane. It just, to me, was not a modern-looking, fast, sleek-looking airplane. Even though it's this 1965, which things were still brand new in those days. So I don't know where I found the guts to do this. Although I kind of did this at Space General too. I started the Oceanography Division of Space General without anyone knowing. I just did it. So then they turned it over and formed a new division and put me in charge of it. And my personality normally is not that way, except in design stuff. I will get an idea in design and I'll stick to it. I don't care what people say, because that's part of the problem with design, is the person that is creating the design, everyone wants to shoot it down. That's just human nature. So you've got to have the personal strength within yourself to overlook all these naysayers and keep charging ahead and make it work. So when Ted Smith was Hawaii, I changed the looks of the airplane, the nose specifically, having no idea what Ted Smith was saying, because he was still in Hawaii. But when he came back, and I didn't hide the drawings, because I felt the airplane would not be successful unless we changed its looks. It couldn't look like the first original Aero Commanders, this blunt nose. It just was not a good looking airplane.
Was the original drawing, did the original drawing have the swept horizontal and vertical stabilizers?
Yeah, all
so
that was
all
the same.
there?
That didn't change, because he
Okay.
wanted interchangeability.
Yep. But it was different in the Commander. I mean, the later Commanders had the straight back of the airplane, the fuselage, and
I didn't. Well, I'm getting ahead of myself. I didn't really, I didn't know nothing about design airplanes except model airplanes. But to me, the tail section of the airplane, to me, was not eye-pleasing. I would have done it differently.
Mm-hmm.
And I suggested that to TR. I said, no way, that's the way we're doing it. because he wanted interchangeability, which I understood that. Anyway, so when he came back, he looked at my sketches of the revised Aerostar. He didn't say a thing except said, Dick, let's build a mock-up, full-scale mock-up of it, what you got here, which we did do, and that stayed. He did. That's all he said.
Huh.
So the connection. Well, I'll back up. I think maybe we said this earlier, but you could have. In the meantime, as this went on, very early in the game, Ted would drive out to our house in Hacienda Heights from Northridge, bring his wife or Nina. So that's a 45-minute drive.
Mm-hmm.
Now, why was he doing that? I mean, he was just to visit Sue and myself at nighttime and have dinner with us and then drive back. Then other times, I think twice or three times, he would call like 6 or 5 in the evening. I've forgotten whether this was weekends or I think probably the weekend, and said, Verdine and I are going to fly in the Air Commander up to San Francisco and have dinner, and we'd love to have Sue and you join us. So that was special. And we did that a couple of times, and he'd put me in the right seat of the Aero Commander, and he said, okay, Dick, fly us on up to San Francisco, which I did do. And then on the way up, he said, okay, push forward on the nose and make her go down. I want you to get a feel of the airplane. And I thought the controls were very heavy feeling, and I was not flying the T-33 feel. And then we'd fly back. So anyway, that connection, now why was he doing that? By now, I really felt a father-son relationship with TR coming on, not on purpose. It was just one of those things that was happening, and I kept asking him, why isn't your son out here? He's an engineer. Why isn't he joining the company? And if I remember right, he would never really answer that question. I'll jump ahead a little bit. After we finished the design, and I'll get in a little bit of detail going through the design, but after we finished the design and had the first 3 aircraft built, and getting ready to tow the first aircraft to start the flight tests.
Well, there's no easy way to break this thing up, so I just cut it off here at the start of the design, and we'll pick up the next one when I get it done. So if you like the videos, please go ahead and subscribe and like and ring the bell so you'll be notified when the next ones come, and we'll get them out as soon as we can.